उजागर होगा।
Pakistan's hybrid political system, where civilian authority coexists uneasily with military supremacy, is inching toward a decisive phase. On 12th November, Pakistan's legislature passed a controversial 27th constitutional amendment bill that expands the powers of the country's army chief and curbs the remit of its top court. It has since been signed into law. Essentially, the legislation makes General Asim Munir a de facto leader or so-called king of Pakistan. Lawmakers approved all 59 clauses of the bill amid opposition's boycott, completing the clause-by-clause voting process. Jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party tore up copies of the bill and threw them towards the Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif's chair. On 14th November, President Asif Ali Zardari gave his assent to the bill, enacting it into law. The new law grants sweeping powers to Pakistan's army chief, in this case, General Asim Munir. He has now been elevated to Pakistan's Chief of Defence Forces, a position that would control all three services, Army, Navy and Air Force. It empowers him to decide who controls Pakistan's nuclear weapons. It also legalizes General Munir's elevation to a field marshal and gives him lifelong immunity from prosecution or removal. For India and the region, this means a unitary, all-powerful military officer holding unchecked power over Pakistan's military and nuclear arsenal. Predictably, it has raised concerns in New Delhi and certain capitals in the region and beyond. The bill amended Article 243 of Pakistan's constitution, which states that the federal government shall have control and command of the armed forces and that the supreme command of the armed forces shall vest in the president. But the amendment which created the position puts General Munir in charge of Pakistan's military. Key amendments proposed under Article 243 would entail abolishing the office of the Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee effective from the 27th of November, establishing a new post of Chief of Defence Forces, a position that will be held concurrently by the serving Chief of Army Staff. The amendments institute a Commander of National Strategic Command, who will be an Army officer appointed by the Prime Minister on the recommendation of the Chief of Defence Forces. The bill extends lifelong constitutional protection to 5-star generals, including Field Marshal. It vests all consequential powers in one chief to rule them all. The proposed changes effectively dismantle the post of Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee, which has long been a ceremonial but symbolically important check on unilateral army control. The abolition of this office on the 27th of November, coinciding with the retirement of the incumbent General Sahir Shamshad Mirza, marks the final nail in the coffin of any institutional facade of jointness within Pakistan's armed forces. Prime Minister Sharif defended the amendment as a stride towards harmony and national unity, but the opposition, judges and independent analysts have condemned the move as a stark sign of democratic erosion and a slide into authoritarianism.
They've given lifetime immunity from criminal prosecution to the President, the Army Chief, the Naval Chief and the Air Chief. The intent again is clear. Musharraf's example is before us. He played with the Constitution, disrupted it. After he'd gone, a court granted him the death sentence. Similarly, the President today has been the subject matter of innumerable inquiries relating to corruption, relating to other criminal matters. He's been given a clean check for the rest of his life.
Pakistan, a nuclear-armed country of 240 million people, has ebbed and flowed between civilian and military rule since its creation in 1947. The new move only strengthens the legacy of the former military rulers, such as Ayub Khan, Zia-ul Haq and Parvez Musharraf. At first, it looks similar to General Ayub Khan's personal ambitions. After taking power in a 1958 coup, General Khan made himself Field Marshal and changed the constitution in 1962 to create a presidential system that gave him more control. By creating a lifetime Field Marshal position, General Munir seems to be doing something similar, building a system that gives one man, rather than the military, lasting authority. The law mirrors General Haq's approach to using the law to justify his rule. After seizing power in 1977, General Haq promised to bring back democracy, but instead held a disputed 1984 referendum to make himself president. He later held non-party elections and pushed through the Eighth Amendment, which legalized his coup and gave him power over future governments. The last army chief to overtly run the country was General Pervez Musharraf, who staged a coup in 1999 and was later named president until 2008. Since then, civilian governments have been nominally in control. But the military's grip on Pakistan's political and economic affairs has become so deeply entrenched that military and government officials have referred to the country's political system as a hybrid rule between the two. The 27th Amendment to the Pakistani Constitution will further tilt the balance towards the military. That's not all. The law neuters Pakistan's top court, which had at least somewhat served as a check on political leaders and the military establishment. It takes away from the Supreme Court its authority to hear cases related to the Constitution and citizens' fundamental rights. In its place, the amendment establishes a federal constitutional court, which has been tasked with handling constitutional matters, resolving disputes between provinces, and advising the president. The Supreme Court would now hear only civil and criminal cases. Critics claim that this is an attack on the independence of the judiciary.
This entire amendment is an assault on the judicial system of Pakistan. Please remember what has happened. They have created a new constitutional court which will be above the Supreme Court of Pakistan. This new constitutional court will be created by the Prime Minister, who will appoint the Chief Justice in his discretion.
These provisions amount to more than mere legal reform. They represent a constitutional coup, reshaping Pakistan's political system in ways that formally entrench military dominance while eroding civilian and judicial authority. Notably, the major restructuring comes just months after India conducted Operation Sindoor in retaliation for the 22nd April terror attack in Pahalgam, which exposed deep flaws in Pakistan's military coordination. Between the 7th and the 10th of May, Indian armed forces carried out targeted strikes on terror infrastructure in Pakistan-controlled areas, destroying multiple radar systems, runways, and command centers, and damaging several F-16 fighter jets. The strikes forced Pakistan's Director General of Military Operations to reach out to his Indian counterpart and plead for an end to hostilities. Soon after fighting paused, Islamabad hastily promoted General Munir to Field Marshal and began drafting reforms to consolidate military power under one leader. Since then, General Munir has met US President Donald Trump twice at the White House, something unusual for a military leader. Their first meeting was on the 18th of June. Talks focused on counterterrorism, regional stability, and trade amid tensions with India. In their second meeting, President Trump called General Munir his favorite field marshal, highlighting the general's growing influence. Aman Kumar Himanshu for DD India.